socioeconomic issues. In rural areas, you find a lot of, you need infrastructure development, health, education, but they are not of good quality. So again, the farmers are facing the issues. So in short, what I want to say is that a farmer faces many challenges, which we in the agroecology world and trying to transist the farming system need to discuss and to come into um, into conclusion or into it's somewhere we can meet. Like we need the farmers to come to up to this level, and also the agricultural framework, especially the big or large scale farming, need to come to a certain level to support this small scale farmer who is not able to access the market or the real thing about farming. So I will stop it at there, but just know the farmer's perspective on food system is a really mix of concern and resilience, and often feel like marginalized by the broader food system, but remain committed to work and to work and support their communities. Thank you. Can you hear me, Oliver?
Yes, we can hear you, Esther. So maybe we can move to the next speaker now. You could probably turn over the floor now and introduce our next speaker, Esther. Thanks. I think we're having some issues, technical issues there, but at this point, maybe to introduce the first topic of our conversation today, let's turn over the floor to Dr. Fergus Sinclair. Fergus, can you explain what agroecology is, according to you, and how can it transform food systems? You have 3 minutes to let us know.
Okay, great. The great thing about agroecology is since 2019, we've had the 13 agroecological principles that were articulated in the Committee on World Food Security high-level panel of experts report. And that's really helpful because it's sort of setting out what agroecology is all about. Now, about half of those principles are about farming in harmony with nature. Principles like ensuring soil health, biodiversity, synergy, recycling, input reduction. And that's the regenerative part of agroecology. So there's a huge overlap with regenerative agriculture in relation to those types of principles. But when people were trying to put agroecology into practice to promote it, they found over the years it was actually impossible to get transformative uptake unless you took on a whole lot of socioeconomic governance and other issues. And so the other half of the principles are all about those human dimensions related to equity, agency, land and natural resource governments, fairness, connectivity between consumers and producers, social values and diets, and economic diversification, and so on. And so agroecology is a lot more than the regenerative element. It's also that whole food system transformation. Now, these principles get applied in practice through co-creation. That's the central principle in agroecology, where you're taking local knowledge into account as well as global scientific knowledge. And it's a genuine joint effort in terms of developing solutions. And that's means that you end up with a diversity of practice. So you've got universal principles, but diversity of practice. And that distinguishes things from the organic farming in the sense that organic farming tends to be prescriptive about practice. Now, the other thing about these principles, if we think about them in relation to nature-based solutions, well, nature-based solutions was really made famous through IUCN using it as an umbrella term. And it started from the conservation side, and it came with the overriding principle of conserving nature, and then realizing, well, farmers have also got to be doing some farming, so we need to be able to accommodate that. Now, you might think that if you start from conservation and incorporate farming, as in nature-based solutions, or you start from farming, as you do in agroecology, and then try and do it in harmony with nature, that those two things would meet in the middle. But often they don't. And I think we can understand this because the actual mindset and intuitions and the types of shaping of solutions tend to be rather different if you come at things from an overriding conservation angle, as opposed to starting from farming. So that is a way that you can use the 13 principles in order to distinguish agroecology, where it overlaps with those other terms, and where it is distinguished from them. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Fergus. Esther, are you with us? Are you able to hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Carry on, please.
I'm happy to hear that the principle, the 13 principle integrated with our farming genuinely and well integrated with the large scale and small scale farming in conservation, everything. We are able to come into a conclusion, or we can get we can get the solution for our problems. Now we go to our next speaker. Oliver.
All right, so thanks so much. Let's move to Ercilia. Ercilia, can you explain what regenerative agriculture is, according to you, and how can it transform food systems?
Thank you, Oliver and Esther, and thank you, Agroecology Coalition. It's great to be with you. This is a very important topic. I'm going to do a little bit of history because it's very important to position myself and the regeneration movement and how we got here. So briefly, our founding meeting as Regeneration International was at a biodynamic farm in Costa Rica. This is 2015. It was a meeting attended by about 60 international leaders from organizations from the agricultural, environmental, and social movements. So what we wanted to do here was to create a truly inclusive and representative umbrella organization, which could include practices and principles from the organic movement, the agroecology movement, permaculture practices, biodynamic, agroforestry, and so on. So we agreed to form Regeneration International to promote a holistic concept of regeneration. So it was, and it is, agriculture as a whole, from aquaculture to pastoralists. So as you know, regenerative agriculture was not a popular term. Actually, before 2014, hardly anyone had heard of regenerative agriculture. So we used media and communication throughout our mixed channels to create a real revolution, a real agricultural revolution. So what was this revolution, this regenerative revolution? It was to get the discussion happening and change the industrial extractivist paradigm to a paradigm, and this is important because this is what regeneration really is, to reverse the climate crisis through healthy, no chemical agriculture, and to promote and produce enabling diverse environments and healthy food. In other words, our idea was, and it is, to empower farmers to be their own agents of change. So the need to form an international regeneration movement, and I know that certain colleagues like Bablu is going to talk about this probably, was partly inspired by IFOAM organics. So IFOAM had Organic 3.0, and this was the development of certain principles. One of the premises of Organic 3.0 was actually to inclusiveness of wider sustainability interests through alliances with the many movements and organizations that have complementary approaches to sustainable food and farming. And there was also a consensus within the movement to move beyond the term sustainable. Many people in organic, agroecological, and environmental movements were not happy with the term sustainable for many reasons. And regenerative agriculture is about improving the system. Therefore, it goes beyond sustainable. We work with natural, biological, and ecological systems. By definition, and I know I only have probably 30 more seconds, but I want to make this very clear that it's for us that the opposite of regenerative is degenerative. So by definition, agricultural systems that are using degenerative practices and inputs that damage the environment, the soil, and the health, and this could be synthetic toxic pesticides, synthetic water-soluble fertilizers, and distracted tillage systems, name them, cannot be considered regenerative, and they should not use the term. They must be called out as degenerative, and that's part of our work as watchdogs to make sure that this movement continues to the path of a better future. So we'll probably discuss more about where we coincide. I know there's a lot of coincidences and a lot of coalition within the movement, but I wanted to put the premises and what we understand as this big umbrella of regeneration that encompasses and brings together all these different movements, practices, and principles. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Ercilia. Yeah, you've mentioned about, you referred to also organic as well. So we pass on the floor now to Bablu from IFOAM, who will talk about organic agriculture. May I also invite our panel discussants to go through the Q&A chat box there. There are some questions addressed directly to you, so you could also respond directly to the questions. Bablu, over to you.
Hello, everybody. It's really quite wonderful to be here with all of you. I'm quite honored to be part of this esteemed panel. Unfortunately, I will not be able to keep my camera on because of internet difficulties. So I'm going to shut off my camera if that's okay with all of you. So, yeah, Oliver has asked me to... What's that? Oliver has asked me to speak about, give me the definition of what is organic. I don't think anybody here wants to hear the official definition of organic agriculture. So let me tell you what I have learned in my last 35 years of practice and what the 2,000 odd farmers I work with tell me. I see organic agriculture as a life-sustaining agriculture based on the 4 principles, which is health, ecology, fairness, and care, of course. I see it as a production system that sustains health of all the 5 elements. And by that, I mean earth, water, fire, air, and space that makes up the cosmos. It is a system that relies on natural or ecological processes. It's based on living ecological systems, biodiversity, and ecological cycles that we work with, that we emulate, and that we sustain. It is an agriculture where the focus is on cooperation. It's on food security and sovereignty, where diversity is respected and recycling is an absolute must, because most of our inputs come from the land itself, where water and air flows are understood and built into the design, where we give back and conserve life-giving elements such as carbon, where we build a fair relationship with the earth and all the denizens of the land. So our current vision in IFOAM is the widespread adoption of truly regenerative organic food and farming systems grounded in the principles of organic agriculture. The principles which I already said: health, ecology, fairness, and care. I believe that these are the roots from which organic agriculture grows and develops. And I believe that they express the contribution that organic agriculture can make to the world. They express a vision to improve agriculture and, above all, transform food systems in the global context. And that's what we pointed out in the Organic 3.0. For all this to happen, we have defined some minimum standards to give the consumers an assured guarantee. This has helped millions of farmers gain better practices and livelihoods. We have spent decades to build a unique global infrastructure of standards, inspection, certification, and labeling to give this guarantee. We have also improved market access for smallholders and played a lead role in developing and expanding participatory guarantee systems for local markets. We have pioneered public procurement of organic food on multiple continents, and we have achieved payment for eco-services via subsidy programs. I think I'll close here now because there is so much otherwise.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Bablu, for citing the very basic principles where organic lies: health, ecology, fairness, and care. At the heels of CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity COP, we turn over to you, Natasja, to talk to us a bit. What does nature-based solution mean insofar as, and how does that relate to food systems transformation as a framing? Over.
Yes, thank you, Oliver. Thank you all for the invitation and listening to us, because I think it's a very important debate. I'm sitting here from working from a conservation organization working on food systems as being part of the solution. For us, it's crucial that we take a landscape approach. And in many landscapes around the world, because more than 50% of the surface, habitable surface of the earth is already taken by humans, mostly agricultural land. So nature conservation and agricultural production go hand in hand, need to go hand in hand, because nature needs sustainable, resilient agricultural production, because if not, then it will be another driver for deforestation. And there's also interdependencies such as water use and water abstraction and linkages like agricultural land can be a very important corridor for wildlife. We also see, of course, and that's very familiar to all the people I think listening, is that food production depends on biodiversity, soil health, pollination, and so on, ecosystem services being provided for food production. And last but not least, we need nature as humans, as the base of our well-being, and we need food. So it's not like mining that we can do without, because we need food also in the future, and we need to build resilient food systems. So for us as a conservation organization, it's really important to see how food systems can become part of the solutions, also for preserving the most precious habitats on Earth. Not only from its intrinsic value, but also from the perspective that we humans need nature. In that sense, we build upon the concept of nature-based solutions. For us, nature-based solutions harness the power of nature to boost natural ecosystems, biodiversity, human well-being, and then to address major societal issues and challenges, such as climate change and food security. In our thinking, nature-based solutions is not so much a principle, it's more like a concept, it's not a practice or a tool. It's also very place-specific, and it basically invites us people to use nature as our ally in the challenges we face. It builds upon and strengthens the foundations of our needs and well-being. We all need biodiversity, we all need natural processes and ecosystem services. And it's very important, nature-based solutions is really focusing on resilience over time. So we're not doing it for the well-being of us, but also for future generations. And as such, this concept is offering an alternative to the current focus on extractive agriculture, monocultures, technical end-of-pipe solutions, such as the use of pesticides and fertilizers. What we do see, and we acknowledge as a nature conservation organization, is that the potential pitfall of nature-based solutions can be that it doesn't take automatically into account social equity. This is a kind of additional focus that we as a conservation organization are taking into account when designing and developing and collaborating on nature-based solutions worldwide. For us, nature-based solutions for food systems have different elements. So we have the element of agrobiodiversity, the offering of genetic diversity that can be specifically tailored to local needs, and specific to the climate and ecosystem and the place where these are developed. Another very important element is resilience, as I told. It's a diversity in production systems such as agroforestry or agroecology systems, because they need to be also be able to deal with shocks such as extreme weather events and mitigate risks from plagues and diseases. So diversity is a real important function that needs to be established in order to be a resilient system. And for that, it can also offer more food security than the current extractive forms of agriculture. And one of the other aspects of nature-based solutions is that it's nature positive. It generates more nature than what was there before. In short, I think current food production systems is based on a very extractive high productivity, which is detrimental for biodiversity, climate, but also for food security. This transformation is needed towards diversity and abundance, because abundance leads to resilience, and that should be one of the leading objectives of future food systems. And it needs to be adapted to local circumstances and social circumstances. For us, the concept of nature-based solutions can be best translated into practice by adopting agroecological principles. So this is the work we are doing, is really focusing on how can we make agroecology part of a nature conservation strategy. That's for it now. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Natasja. We will start wrapping up a little bit, and thanks for already connecting the different pieces together. But I want to do a very quick second round to all our speakers. Now that you have heard others speak on the different framings, what do you see are the synergies and similarities or differences across these four framings? Natasja already alluded to that one, but maybe we could start from you, Fergus. We also started to allude to this one in your intervention. So what do you see are the synergies or similarities across these four different framings? We go to Fergus, to Ercilia, to Bablu, and then quickly to you again, Natasja, before we hand over the floor to Amelie for some questions. Fergus.
Yeah, so I think it's actually become quite clear, I think, as everybody has been speaking, that essentially agroecology is looking at whole food system transformation. So it covers the social, the economic, governance issues, as well as the farming side of things. And so in that sense, it sort of encapsulates all of the other elements, but it sort of requires you, instead of dealing with global challenges separately, like climate change, land and water degradation, broken food systems, biodiversity loss, it actually requires you to see it as a holistic issue that you need to deal with by applying all 13 principles in order to make a food system transformation. Thanks.
Thanks very much. A glue that binds. Ercilia, what do you think from where you're sitting?
Thank you, Oliver. This is great. My perspective is that these are the three major movements, and as such, they need to be brought together as complementary systems. I would say, instead of focusing on debates about their differences, what we need to do is to work together. And in Mexico, within the grassroots movements and civil society, we use the Nahuatl term, hacer milpa. So in English, milpa is the three sisters system of agriculture. It goes beyond just a system of agriculture. It's a cultural, it's a tradition. So for many communities, the three seeds, corn, beans, and squash, represent the most important crops. When planted together, the three sisters work in mutuality and together to help one another thrive and survive. So I think this is a movement language to continue talking regenerative, organic, agroecological, and working with the living earth and the regenerative powers. So I would say that, and this is in the questions, we're probably going to discuss this a little bit later, but we cannot hand over this language to corporations. And I would propose that we do milpa, that we work together and find more our commonalities and mutualities rather than the differences. That's what's going to make us stronger. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for underscoring the importance of interdependencies. Thanks, Ercilia. Bablu, from where you're sitting.
I cannot but agree with both Fergus and Ercilia. And this is what we've been talking about in IFOAM also. We see organic and agroecological actors along with serious proponents of regenerative and nature-based solutions as part of the same family. Oh, sorry, I have to remove the video. I think we can draw inspiration from each other. I know that these movements must stand together. In fact, together, we are the alternative and the primary challenges to the current degenerative food systems. The truth is that we offer transformative solutions and a system change approach, not just some practices and some narratives. So let's stand together in global advocacy. Let's share lessons and best practices with each other on policy, on organizing and training farmers, and development of markets at the local and national levels. Because I believe that agroecology and the Agroecology Coalition brings us under one roof, with a strong shared platform and well-defined shared principles. I also believe that there is a strong alignment between the organic principles of health, ecology, fairness, and care, and the 13 elements of agroecology. I mean, I should know it because we practice all the 13 principles of agroecology in our collective, and we have been actually doing a study on this. Likewise, the principles of nature-based solutions, at least as defined by WWF, are essentially agroecology. And according to me, the serious regenerative actors are in fact practicing agroecology. So it is important to understand that these shared principles are also a guarantee against greenwashing and those organizations or interests that are, cherry picking a few regenerative practices and call themselves regenerative. I mean, let's be honest, this is quite widespread. And regenerative farmers and actors are a natural kin and allies for the organic and agroecological movements. Regenerative principles are already embedded in the core principles of organic and agroecology. But there is a word or two of caution, if I may. This may just take 30 seconds more, regarding the otherwise positive focus on measuring outcomes. We don't want small producers or all supply chain actors burdened by the measurement regime that is too costly, that raises food costs, makes markets less accessible for the small holders. Focus on very specific selected outcomes can also undermine holistic solutions, tools like carbon credits and all. Just as much as focusing on high yields on single crops can favor monocultures over diversity and food and nutrition standards.
Thanks very much, Bablu. I'm just sorry to cut you off. I'm just conscious of time, but I think we're getting the...
That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks so much. I just wanted to give the floor to Natasja for your maybe 1 minute in terms of, where do you see the similarities and convergence are?
Yeah. I don't think I have to add too much to the previous speakers because I do agree with all of them. And the only thing that I would like to add is also what Bablu is saying about outcomes, because I think all the different frameworks are geared towards the same, and that's positive outcomes for biodiversity, climate, food security, not only for our generation but also for future generations. But then the big challenge that I see for the future and in transforming the food systems is, apart from getting the corporate capture away, is also how can we create business models, because all these systems and all our the different frames are dependent on that we invest in nature as our ally. And this investment sometimes comes at the cost of short-term gains versus long-term gains. So building business cases, focusing on desired outcomes without having too much administrative burden for farmers, and possibilities for scaling up, and what can be the role of, for instance, financial institutions, what can be the role of governments in advancing this, for instance, in the NBCEPs, the National Strategic Biodiversity Plans, or the nationally determined contributions for the climate agenda. And how can we make sure that we can mainstream this? Because that's my biggest worry. And I think the worry from all these different frameworks is how can we build upon all the beautiful things that are already happening and making it accessible to loads of more farmers as a viable alternative.
Thanks. Thanks very much for outlining those challenges, addressing corporate capture and creating business models out of this otherwise very, how do you call this, converging concepts. I just wanted to honor the time of everyone here, but also those who provided a few questions in the chat box. And I turn over to you, Amelie, for maybe 1 or 2 questions. And if we could request folks to stay maybe for 5-10 more minutes so we could wrap up and hear some of the questions. Amelie, over to you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks everyone for the question asked in the Q&A. I think some were already addressed by the speakers during their intervention. Maybe I would like to ask this one: how do we help farmers gain economic stability without sacrificing conservation methods? If someone can answer that one, please. And maybe there is also another one that we didn't tackle, and that is maybe a bit more controversial, about GMOs and NGTs. What is the position of the different movement on this matter? I don't know who wants to answer one of these 2 questions first.
Your position around GMOs, but also about how can we make sustainable livelihoods out of these different practices. Anybody who wants to respond?
Well, I did put into the chat about GMOs. From an agroecology perspective, GMOs as a technology doesn't in itself violate any of the agroecology principles. But the way that GMOs are used, the way the technology is deployed, often does. So, for example, disempowering farmers by controlling the genetic material and preventing farmers from being able to own their own and reproduce their own seeds and so on. So I think, we need to sort of go beyond just, as I say, this whole issue about specific practices. It's really about, or technologies, it's actually about how things are often how they're used that really matters in terms of what impact they have on farmers and on the environment. Thanks.
Well, thanks, Fergus. Anybody else from our panel who want to weigh in on any of the 2 questions that Amelie has just posted?
Well, from IFOAM, we are totally against GMOs. And that is our stated response anywhere, it's there. And to make a living, well, that's the whole question. I mean, and that's what we've been working here for the past so many years. We run a cooperative with 2,000 farmers, who are about 10,000, 11,000 acres of organic food that they are growing. They're growing multiple millets, and agroecology is just part of the way we do everything. We have biodynamic, we have organic, and I think since the time we started this whole thing, the farmers with whom we work are very small farmers, but their earnings has gone up by at least 25 to 40%, because they have been able to join, to start interacting with the market from a position of strength. Individually, small farmers find it very difficult to handle the market, but when they come together, then it makes some sense. So right from the seed to the fork is now controlled by the cooperative in their they produce about 2,500 tons of food, which is all organic, and they are able to sustain themselves quite well.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Bablu, for your point. One last call for any of our panelists, if somebody else would want to weigh in before I turn over to Esther.
I would argue, sorry, about the GMOs, our position in the regenerative world, and as Regeneration International, and again, I want to emphasize, it's for us, it's regenerative organic. So going to that precise point, for us, there's an enormous number of published scientific studies showing that GMOs and associated pesticides are responsible for serious health problems for people, animals, and the wider environment. So we are completely opposed to the use of GMOs. There's no safe dose of GMOs and pesticides. So there's no room for that.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Ercilia. At the end of the day, it all boils down on where. Yes, Natasja.
Well, just because then to conclude, WWF also adopts the precaution principles, and we are against GMOs, and we think that there are more viable alternatives for the challenges we are facing today.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. As I was just saying, at the end of the day, it all boils down to the ground. At the end of the day, it all happens at the farm level. So Esther, I want to close the loop by going back to you. What are you taking from this conversation, from where you're sitting as a farmer leader, as a woman farmer leader at that, in your field, with your partners in that part of the world in Kenya? We have 1 to 2 minutes to conclude, and then we hand over to you, Amelie.
Sorry. Thank you, Fergus. My take home. It is crucial for us to take a hybrid approach of nature conservation, water, and we need to take care, conserve our habitat. Nature-based solutions are the most crucial things. We all noted that during the conversations, all the conversation we have gone through, we have all noted that we are all agreeing that we are working together towards the conservation of nature and increase food availability, accessibility, and safe food systems. So again, we have noted that our policies, for us to achieve what we need to achieve, our policies must support all the movement that are supporting nature-based food systems. So in this way, remember, what we do is more just not a set of practices. According to what you have heard from all the speakers today, what we do is a philosophy that sees all the agricultural integral part of ecosystem, like integrity to our food production, integrity to our nature, integrity to conservation of everything that God has given us. So I will conclude and say that we are all working together. We need to work together, and we are one thing. Continue doing what you do best. Thank you. As a farmer, I shall continue providing people with a clean and safe food. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. I would like to thank you and thanks all the panelists for this great webinar, which highlighted that more than ever, we need to join forces to transform the food system towards more resilience, fairness, and sustainability. I would like also to thank the many participants today. So if you are not part of the coalition yet, I really encourage you to join as a member of the Agroecology Coalition. The recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel. I also invite you to subscribe to our quarterly newsletter and to follow us on the different social media channels. So thanks a lot. It was a pleasure to organize this webinar and to welcome you, and see you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.